to have a purpose to help people to succeed at their jobs. That gives me satisfaction.
In the Air Force, you can put a nurse in any position and they'll be successful. We have that clinical expertise as well as the leadership component, so we bring both of those to the Air Force.
Nothing at all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all. No, I don't want nothing at all, unless I can have it all.
HPSP stands for Health Profession Scholarship Program, and it is a scholarship program to support the education of healthcare providers in the United States Air Force. No matter what you're interested in healthcare, the Air Force will support you. The difficult thing about it is finding out that it exists, and most of the time we don't find out until we're already in school. You can apply while you're still in college and potentially finance all 4 years through the Air Force. You can also pursue a 3-year scholarship or a 2-year scholarship.
As any of you can probably imagine, medical school is not cheap. Knowing that I could go into a scholarship program and only have to worry about my education was a huge part for me and my family. Do I need to get a second job? Does my wife need to be working? Can I buy this textbook? All of that was covered.
I chose the Air Force HPSP program because the other services may not have allowed me to choose a specialty. I submitted a very simple form to be reimbursed for supplies, books, equipment, and I also received a living stipend. I recommend students apply for the HPSP. The process was very simple. I was able to focus on my studies. I didn't have to worry about loans or repayment. The Air Force provided opportunities for me that I've really enjoyed.
After HPSP, you'll go to officers training for a 5 to 6 week period where you'll be taught leadership skills and what's expected of an officer in the Air Force. If someone's considering the HPSP, I would recommend to really look into the benefits. There's a whole lot that you can get from it for really a small commitment to the Air Force. When I first joined, my initial plan was do 3 years and leave, but I have enjoyed the Air Force and have stuck around for 9 more years.
It's very important as a young clinician to be supported, and the Air Force provides support in every imaginable way.
I am an American airman. I am a warrior. I have answered my nation's call. I am an American airman. My mission is to fly, fight, and win. I am an American airman, wingman, leader, warrior. I will never leave an airman behind. I will never falter, and I will not fail.
Welcome back to another episode of the Back and Forth, Air Force Recruiting Services only live stream. I'm Tech Sergeant Greg Cerny.
And I'm Master Sergeant Jody Reed, and today we have another great episode for you. We all know that the market for health profession careers, as far as competition, as far as demand, it can be pretty tough out there.
Yep.
And you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your education and which direction you're going to take that. Well, today's episode is going to talk about all the different health profession careers you can take advantage of in the Air Force, and we have a great cast as well.
Yeah, awesome opportunities, tons of different jobs in the health professions career fields. And we actually have 5 guests today, and that is still tipping the scales at the most guests we've ever had on the show. So please take full advantage of their breadth of experience and the amount of knowledge that they bring to this. Ask any questions that you guys have later when we get to the question and answer part of the show. But really try to focus on if you've got questions for the health professions career field or anything with that stuff. Knock that stuff out of the park. Today, helping us answer questions for you guys, we've got Lieutenant Colonel Homestead, Major Catrine. I said it. I'm trying.
You got it.
I'm going to get it right.
You got it.
I can't just do Major K for the whole day, but I will do Catrine. That's it. All right. And Senior Master Sergeant Ward, Master Sergeant Mendoza, and Master Sergeant Bender. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Colonel Homestead, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to all of our people out there?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Homestead, and I work in officer accessions, and I also work in officer assignments. So with the Nurse Corps Division, we work to bring you in and to move you around. With the nurses do the nurse assignments, and so if you come in as a nurse, be rest assured that you will be moved by folks that know exactly what you need and where you need to go. Over.
Very cool. Thank you. Major Catrine.
Got it.
Tell me I got it right.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce
You did
yourself?
good. You did good.
Awesome.
You made me proud. All right. So I am Major Keely Catrine. I am a family health physician assistant. I currently work in recruiting headquarters, and I help process medical waivers. So session medical waivers, I know we already had a talk on that, but hit me with what you guys got if needed. Otherwise, yes, I am a physician assistant, family health, so I act like a primary care provider that you see out in the civilian world. Over.
Major, you're going to get a lot of questions about those medical waivers.
Yep, and you're going to get a lot of me messing up your name. Hopefully
Totally
not.
fine.
Senior Master Sergeant Ward, please introduce yourself.
You're on mute, Senior Master Sergeant. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Ward. I'm an aerospace medical technician by trade. Currently, I'm a functional assignments manager of the enlisted medical operations AF career fields, which entail 8 enlisted career fields in the medical field.
Okay, let's skip back to the first part. What did you say you said, what was the very first part of it?
Aerospace medical service technician, a 4NO.
Yeah, we're going to have questions about that.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Master Sergeant Mendoza, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Oscar Mendoza. I'm a health professions recruiter for the Air Force Reserve, stationed out at Phoenix, Arizona.
Awesome. And last but not least, Master Sergeant Bender.
Yes, sir. My name is Jake Bender, currently assigned here at the headquarters AFRS. My team facilitates all the onboarding for civilians, Guard Reserve members that are looking to cross over and become a actual practicing physician, nurse, dentist, doctor, anything like that in the United States Air Force for active duty side. And we take care of that onboarding process.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. All right. My question, did any of you have experience before the military with medical background? Anybody can take that one. I mean, Colonel Homestead, I would hope so.
Yeah, so I went to school first, went to college, and then recruiters came to college and they had pizza, and I was like, I'm sold, right?
Listen,
so
that's all
joined,
it took.
Yeah, but I did a little bit. I did 6 months prior to going to OTS, and there is a difference between civilian and military nursing, and I really appreciate what the military has to offer as far as teamwork, as far as benefits, as far as the work that you do. So if you want to go any more into that, let me know.
I mean, feel free. You said teamwork a couple of times. Tell me what it's like. You know, because the military you kind of see as a big team, right? And it's interesting because you can look at the military as an organization where people do jobs, and I think the medical career field is one of those really cool places where it's a very paralleled universe to the civilian side. Like that's still the same kind of job you can see someone doing as a civilian. What is it like having the military backing you with that team aspect as a medical professional?
Oh, it's so much better. You know, if any of you guys out there are familiar with the health professions, you know, if for nursing, for example, right? If you want to be on a floor, it takes 20 years to work your way up. You got to work through the crowds and through the people, got to the night shift, got to get to the day shift, got to get the
Right.
good money. You know, and the civilian, the providers may see you in a certain way, and it's more compartmentalized. Whereas with the military, everyone's working together,
Yeah.
and everyone's taking care of the patients and really getting what needs to get done. We also aren't worrying too much about, hey, this is going to cost this much to do a prevention or a prescription, right? So, hey, this person needs this, and we take care of them. And the doctors aren't like, don't do this, don't do that. And they really respect everyone and respect the team. And sometimes in the civilian side, you're left just kind of by yourself. You know, I could be on the floor, not even off orientation yet. 2 other nurses by my side for 40 patients, and it's just, and you don't feel like there's really anyone around you. And yeah, that's so
Awesome.
That's cool. I mean, I can imagine just from the experience that I have in the military and that team cohesiveness, that family element, then you combine that with something as highly skilled level as medical field and powerhouse,
Yeah.
you know, just like any one of those careers, it just feels like, okay, now you're adding the military capability on top of something that was already impressive and you have the support. That's really cool.
Yeah. I had a question for you as well, Colonel. So you said you did 6 months in the civilian world practicing medical? Did you say that?
yeah, as a nurse.
Okay, so were those 6 months you getting your feet wet while you were waiting to join the Air Force, or were those 6 months the 6 months that you decided, you know what, I'm going to join the Air Force? What?
Nope, you got the first one.
Okay.
I was getting my done. I was getting ready to ship off and just kind of wait for my date. But I wanted to earn some money before I went because you know, those mess uniforms aren't cheap. So
Got it.
had to.
I got it. Okay,
Awesome.
awesome.
All right, my question is for Colonel Catrine. I'm going to get it right by the end of the show. That's my goal, and without hesitating. Walk me through kind of what drew you to the Air Force, and then what life is like for you in your career field and kind of what you get out of it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for the promotion. I appreciate it.
Oh,
Um,
I did. I focused
Yep,
on the
I
wrong
appreciate
part.
it.
I got the rank wrong and the name right.
We feel it coming
Totally fine. So anyways, my path was a little bit different. I am an academy grad first and foremost. I went to the academy back in 2013, not from a military family. So it is possible for those without any family military affiliation at all. Went there, graduated. I got my bachelor's degree in biology. And with that degree, I went on to be a bioenvironmental engineer. Still part of the biomedical science corps, which PAs, physician assistants, belong to. But at the time, I didn't know that IPAP was an option for active duty personnel. IPAP is the Inter-Service Physician Assistant Program. So after being a bioenvironmental engineer for 2 years, I applied for IPAP, went through IPAP, and now I'm a PA.
Tell me a little bit more about the Interpersonal Physician's Assistance Program, or inter-service, not interpersonal. Yeah,
Yes.
inter-service. I said interpersonal.
So IPAP, it is a joint service school for military personnel. It has Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force
cool.
there. It was a really unique experience. And it is an accelerated program. It's about 29 months long. You do your didactic courses for 13 months, and then you do your clinical courses for 16 months. And after 29 months, you're a PA in the military.
And
wow, you said accelerated program at 29 months.
He said that's still long.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still long. It's still long, but compared to what docs have to go to for
Right.
their med school and then residency, it's a much shorter version for us.
So, and while you're in IPAP, while you're taking advantage of that program, you're in ROTC as well. Who are you reporting to during school?
So I still reported to Air Force. I was still active duty, and I maintained my rank as a first lieutenant. So we just followed the Air Force side of the house there. We were not put in reserve status.
Okay.
and there are enlisted personnel that go through it as well, and they maintain their enlisted rank while they are going through that program, and then they commission at the end.
I always thought that you report to like a ROTC coordinator or something, though. You're reporting back to your. You were reporting back to your. Go ahead.
Sorry, we belong to a. So we're not technically in student status, but we belong to like a training group over at Fort Sam.
Okay,
gotcha.
And you went to the academy, finished your degree in the academy, and then you commissioned and decided you wanted to do the iPad. Walk us through that. What happened there?
So, all right. So we'll do the short story. I majored in biology while I was there. I thought for sure, I was like, you know what? When I grow up, I want to be a doc for sure. All the way. Freshman semester hit me in the academy, and I was like, "Oh, maybe the doctor route isn't as great as I want to do. I know I still want to interact with patients. I still want to provide healthcare. I still want to help people in some way, shape, or form." And so I decided to go the bioenvironmental engineer route, thinking maybe health and safety, occupational safety, maybe that's the way I want to go. But what I realized, being a bioenvironmental engineer, I was interacting more with patients' records versus patients themselves. I had to deal with more OSHA standards and exposure hazards, and a lot of just sitting back, monitoring, recording, reporting data. And what I really wanted to do was get out there and actually talk to the people, actually help the people, and do face-to-face time with the patients. So that's why I started looking at opportunities, and I found IPAP on the Knowledge Exchange for the Biomedical Science Corps and decided to go that route. I was like, you know what? This looks like exactly what I want to do.
That's just interesting. The Air Force provided you that opportunity after going through the academy. It was like, hey, I want to try something else. And they were like, okay, we can let you try something else. That's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool. I'm listening to a lot of degrees, education, and I'm just really glad that you guys do that, because I'm like, accelerated courses, a little over 2 years. I'm thinking accelerated courses like how many months, and not in the 20s and 30s of them. So
I was thinking more like 15 months.
Right,
months.
Exactly. Senior Ward, we'll give you a chance. Aside from your epic lighting, which I still have to give you kudos on, explain to me what you do on a day-to-day basis, or what your job looks like you would explain it to like a relative or somebody.
Right now, as the Personnel Center Functional Assignments Manager, it's a lot more on the admin side. I'm dealing with, manning and making sure all of the different locations within the medical service have the right amount of manning for the medical enlisted career fields. As a medic before, as a 4N, we were called jack of all trades. We could work anywhere within the hospital. I worked anywhere from a pediatric clinic to a trauma ICU to the emergency room, running the ambulances.
So you're like a one-man hospital.
No, we rotate to get the experience. So we can rotate between different units and clinics to get different experience. As a 4N. That's one of the great things about a 4N, and really cool too is there's specialty trades, the shreds that you can kind of retrain into after you've been the core medic for a couple of years. You can be an IDMT, which is an independent duty medical technician. I like to describe them as like an enlisted PA, where they kind of see patients, but they have to report to, a provider as their preceptor. We have allergy and immunizations, the hyperbarics chamber, aeromedical evacuation. There's so much. And as a functional assignments manager, I have to make sure all of those career fields are staffed accordingly appropriate for all of the different locations within the Air Force.
Wow. Very cool. Well, I wasn't saying that you were a one-man hospital, but it sounds like you have had experience in a lot of different areas inside hospital services. It sounds like you've done a ton of different jobs. How long have you been in the Air Force?
A little over 23 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Nice. How much
I've
longer
had my fair share.
How much longer you plan on staying in? Another
I
23?
actually on the verge of retiring.
Okay. Early congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Very cool. Where's your favorite place that you've been assigned so far?
Oh gosh.
No pressure. No bias either, of
Location-wise or
course.
job-wise?
Let's do one of each.
One of each.
Location
Okay,
first.
location
Yeah,
would
location
definitely
first.
be Europe. Right before we got here, we were in Germany. Ramstein is, the headquarters of USAFE, so it's pretty busy. But while I was over there, I was a flight chief of the Family Health Clinic, moved up to the squadron senior enlisted leader. And during my time there, of course, COVID hit. So, medical was hot during COVID. So we had to figure out, how to provide medical care while being safe over there in Europe and follow the host nation rules on top of, the American rules. And then right towards the end, right when I was getting ready to come back to the States, OAR hits. So we opened up, pretty much almost a refugee camp on the flight line in Ramstein.
Oh, wow.
We were only supposed to get 1,000 refugees. We ended up getting 35,000.
Oh,
so
my
providing
gosh.
medical care and taking care of them. I was on my way out, and it was just like, oh my goodness, it was a lot. But Ramstein, the location definitely was the best. Traveling with the family, we went all over Europe. It was amazing.
That's cool.
And then probably best job wise, I would say. When I worked in the trauma ICU here in San Antonio, way back in the day when Wilford Hall was, a level 1 trauma center, probably that was my favorite job wise, just because the adrenaline rush of thinking on your feet and taking care of patients, and just, I love the blood and guts. So that's my
Really?
thing. Trauma's my thing.
Wow.
Very cool. Sounds like you've got a lot of experience. Do you plan on taking this into the civilian side after military service?
I'm not sure yet. Yes and no, maybe. I'm an EMT. I'm a certified EMT. We have to be as
cool.
a 4N, but I didn't know if I wanted to go the nursing route or not, or I'm not sure yet. I'm ready. I want to be a mom for a little bit.
I hear you. I hear you.
Be a mom.
That's
Enjoy
really
it for a little while.
That's really cool. I don't even know how to process what it would be like to be in the medical career field. It's not something that I've ever really put a whole ton of thought into. But every time I talk to someone who is a doctor or a nurse or a physical assistant or PA, so physician's assistant. There it is. That's the one problem with having a camera in your face. When you have a little brain fart, you're like,
what is
the
that?
longer I sit here and think about this, the longer I just look awkward. So physician's assistant, anybody who's in the medical career fields, it looks almost consuming. Like it's just like that, it becomes who you are. And the level of caregiver status and the level of care for other people and the way people seem to just pour themselves out into their teams, the people that they care for, I think is really admirable. I think it's awesome. So, all right, let's see. Sergeant Mendoza, how many places have you been stationed and where has your favorite been?
So when I originally joined, I came in directly to the Air Force Reserve. I am in a specific, I don't want to get into the weeds and confuse people. I am in a specific position where I'm active duty through the reserve, active guard reserve, AGR. First, I was assigned out at Homestead Air Reserve Base down in Miami, Florida. I was services for about 5 years. I decided to volunteer to be a recruiter. I submitted an application and got accepted. My first duty location was down at Beale Air Force Base in the middle of nowhere. So transitioning from Miami city lifestyle to the boonies was a hard transition. But surely enough, I mean, I actually loved my experience out there. Out at Beale Air Force Base, I was the enlisted assessment recruiter. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I went to Joint Base Andrews out in Maryland, the DMV, I think is what they refer to it, DC, Maryland, Virginia. Mm-hmm. I was there for about 2.5 years as the in-service recruiter. I helped people that were on active duty, wanted to transition to the reserve. I was that point of contact as an in-service recruiter. Now I'm here at Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix, Arizona, as the health professions recruiter. I specifically recruit medical officers. So anyone that's in the 5 corps, the medical corps, the dental corps, the biomedical science corps, the medical service corps, and nurse corps.
And you're responsible for all 5 of those.
Correct.
What's it like recruiting civilians that have, like, how many people do you run into where it feels like they kind of have a trajectory in their own mind of what they want their medical career to look like, and you come in and impact that in a positive way? What's that feel like for you? What's that look like? Or does it even happen?
Enjoy
I
this
guess.
job.
Good.
For me,
That's
it's a little specific as far as when someone comes to me for the Air Force Reserve. Most of the positions I recruit for, they have to be fully qualified. So you have to be already a practicing physician assistant or a nurse in order to qualify for the Air Force Reserve. Our nurses must have 1 year of experience in acute care to qualify. Most of our jobs, the only job that doesn't require any kind of experience is our Medical Service Corps, the MSC officers. You have to have a business degree or something related, and certain other requirements as well to qualify for that position. But as far as like impact on helping someone make their dream come true, it's amazing. Just yesterday, I was able to help out one of I work with a lot of enlisted members, so I was able to help this person. They came enlisted, eventually worked their way up to become a nurse using the Air Force Reserve Education funds. Then shortly enough, she reached out to me, and I helped her and managed to get her as a nurse just yesterday. So she commissioned. So helping her achieve that goal, it does bring me some satisfaction of being able to help them out.
Very cool.
What's one of your biggest tips from your experience? It sounds like you've been through the ringer of recruiting. So what's one of your biggest tips to the medical professionals that you see that you wish all of them knew?
Ooh.
That's too tough. As a recruiter, like one of the things that I wish everybody knew was coming to see me, understanding the process. A lot of times people will come and see me as a recruiter, and I was like, oh man, I really wish you understood the process, because now I have to educate you, and sometimes they think that I'm misguiding them. Do you see anything like that as a medical professional or a health profession recruiter?
Believe it or not, it's a little bit different. I feel, as you were mentioning earlier, that amount of education that they have to go through, most of these medical professionals know exactly what they're looking for. So when they come to me, they're like, hey, I did my research. Here's everything I've done. And it's like, oh, okay, why don't you become a recruiter then?
They know everything.
I feel like that'd be kind of intimidating.
So they know already what they want. As far as like this job, I remember earlier you were mentioning like PA. Coming into this role, I had no medical background like yourself, and I feel like the first couple of months trying to understand the amount of dedication it takes, education to become qualified was a little bit challenging for me, being that I never really had any interest in the medical field, and I volunteered to do this position just to another way to help out the military as well and help out members.
Awesome.
But some information. So to answer your question back, as far as like what's information I wish they could know is be patient with the recruiter. It is a very lengthy process for someone wanting to come in as a commissioned officer. You're looking at anywhere from 6 months to a year, maybe even longer.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
All right. So we monitor the comments the whole show. They're just going in the side here. And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to put it up on screen because it kind of disappeared a little while ago. But, oh, there it is. Sergeant Bender, looks like you got some fans out there. What in the world would you be able to do to get people calling you out by name in the middle of a live stream in caps? What's that about?
I would say, judged by that name, I trained that individual as a recruiter. So that's a health professions recruiter when I knew him out there in the great state of Illinois. So.
Oh, okay.
Any good stories there?
I will leave his stories out of it. Every story when you go out and when you do recruiting training with individuals, it's always going to be the applicants make it fun. Like that's my favorite part is going out and actually talking to applicants and interacting with them, because if you can get them to kind of they always have a little bit of apprehensive and their guard up when they come talk to a recruiter. And if you can break through that with them to just let them know that you're just here to educate them, the decision's theirs, they need to make these choices. It just becomes a great mutual relationship to where they know that you're just sincerely in it for them. So it's always it's a good time whenever you're able to do that and connect with an applicant.
Awesome. Okay. So now to flip it 180 degrees, what's the most challenging part of being an HP recruiter?
I would say the most challenging part of it is a lot of it's based upon where you're located, because I was a flight chief supervisor out in Northern California, and it tends to be a little trickier out there to get into some hospitals to try to talk to folks. You get into certain schools that feel that they don't want you in there. Because of, maybe their students don't need any funding or education. So a lot of it's getting your foot in the door to certain institutions and things like that. I would say that would be one of the hardest things that we deal with.
Gotcha. I mean, I can also see it being an interesting challenge to deal with people who, because let's face it, the decision to become a doctor or a nurse or to follow that profession is not a light decision. It takes a lot of your life, a lot of your energy, and it takes a long time. And I know we were kind of poking fun at an accelerated course that's almost 30 months, right? But that's really fast if you think about like to become a practicing doctor. For those of us that don't embark on that adventure in life, that's a huge monumental task. And to have somebody that has this idea of what they want, they're already probably pretty well educated on what they want, how they want to do it, and to kind of get involved in that process and show them how there's a really cool way for them to be involved in the Air Force and also do that job can sometimes feel like you're influencing that a little bit. And I feel like that could be a pretty good challenge, but also really rewarding on the back end when you see people serving and wearing this uniform doing the same jobs as doctors and nurses on the civilian side. So
Right.
yeah.
I agree. So you're now working at AFRS. You were a flight chief. How many different positions in recruiting have you held?
Ooh. All right. So I've been in recruiting service for over 14 years now. I started off by trade as an avionics technician, so I dealt with the laser-guided bombing system on the F-15, F-16.
Okay.
And then I did enlisted recruiting first. We all have to do that. And then I was fortunate enough to get involved with healthcare recruiting. At the time, I was terrified when they said I should do that. I thought, you got the wrong guy for this. And I went up to Boston to do that. I took care of all of the nurses that were joining out of New England and Europe when I was in that position. So that's number 2. Then we went to go be a trainer and operations NCO in healthcare, and then a flight chief in healthcare, and now the health profession superintendent. So I've been around for five assignments now, but the last decade plus has been exclusively with healthcare.
That's crazy. And what was your primary AFSC, your first job?
So that AFSC is long gone because I'm very old in the Air Force, but it is avionics.
They merged them. They merged it.
You went from unhealthcare to healthcare.
I absolutely did.
That's awesome.
And that's always a challenge. Whenever I would train recruiters or go out in the field, you have to, as Sergeant Mendoza said, you have to get comfortable with this new group of clientele.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said, when they finally ask you if you're a nurse, then you've crossed that threshold. You've talked the lingo.
Okay.
You know the terminology, and that's when you can humbly say, "No, I'm not. However, I'm here to help you with the onboarding process." So that's how you know you've made it. Is how I would tell them.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the part in the show where we kick it over to the back and forth question and answer section. We will interact live with you guys in the comments. We'll put them up on the screen, read them out, and then with the 7 of us combined, hopefully we can get to a good answer. While we're doing that, make sure to grab the QR code off your screen right now and the number that you've got, and also airforce.com for any questions that you have if we don't get to you. But use that QR code. It's a really powerful tool to help not only put you in contact with recruiters, but also help answer some of the questions that you guys do have. Make sure that if you're putting stuff in the comments to put a Q before your comment or question, if it is in fact a question. That way we can easily pick out the questions and get to them as quickly as possible. So let's get it started, and we'll pop our first question up on screen. Boom.
Question: are individuals with HX of ADHD allowed in the Air Force? I'm gonna let my medical professionals answer that one because I don't understand the acronym.
History.
History.
See,
like
would never have gotten there. I thought maybe it was like a prescription, like so RX, but I accidentally typoed. So I have no idea. So that's
Major Cat trying.
I knew it was coming to me. Totally fine. So the short answer is yes, they are allowed with a history of ADHD. The caveat to that is the DoD standards. So the instruction that guides all the CMOs at MEPS on what is and is not considered qualified or disqualifying for military service. So the DoD does state that those individuals with ADHD must be off of medications for 24 months. There are waivers involved with this for anyone who is disqualified for ADHD at MEPS, but we won't get into that. So yes, short answer is yes, they can come in with a history of ADHD if they are not on current treatment.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Sounds good.
One of the things I always did as a recruiter, I would have them get their transcripts. I would have them get their pharmacy records, any type of job performance that shows that they have attention, any type of letters from their teachers, anything, so I can send it up to the Surgeon General for them to give approval. As I'm saying that stuff, do you agree with that stuff, or is there anything else that you would add to make their chances better of getting a waiver approved?
So 100% agree. We have a simple list. Typically, for any medical condition, you want all previous clinical notes and pharmacy records. So for individuals with ADHD particularly, we want those clinical notes. We want the past 5 years of pharmacy records. We want those school transcripts. We want a copy of the IEP or 504 that the applicant used in school. If they didn't use one, then we just need a letter from school saying they did not utilize those accommodations. And any employer statement, just like you said, that says how long they've been employed and if they used any accommodations there.
I think we need to make a YouTube short of that script right there and just kick it.
I mean, say the word.
Say the word. We need to put a marker on that part.
Hold on. Marker.
YouTube short.
Done.
Thank you for that, Major. That was very informative.
Awesome.
No
All right,
problem.
next question. All right, my son is finishing his first year of medical school and is doing well. What are his chances of pursuing urology, anesthesiology, or emergency medicine? I know those are fairly simple words, but I just panicked when I realized, oh, wait a minute, we're doing a show specifically on health profession. Most of the medical industry is based on Latin. I have very little experience with, but I just realized reading some of those words, I could run into some that would be really entertaining to see me try to pronounce. If I could barely get Catrine down.
You've been 100% solid though since the show started. I haven't seen a word that got you.
Except for major, apparently.
Okay, what was the question?
What was the question again?
read
Let's put that back up
question
again, and I can not panic this time.
Okay.
All right. What are his chances of pursuing urology, anesthesiology, or emergency medicine? Colonel Homestead, how about you for this one?
Well, actually, that's medical school. And so, medical school, doctors, nursing. I really can't speak to that question, unfortunately.
One of the recruiters, look at Sergeant Bender.
Boom. There we go.
Yes, sir. So whenever it comes to the match process, whenever they're in their final year, it's very similar to the civilian side of it, except we offer an extra match during the process. So if he were to go through the HPSP process and go for our scholarship, he would then have the ability to go for a match in December, along with a regular March match that he would normally go through. And he would have the opportunity to match to Air Force residencies and civilian, and they roughly have about the same chances. It's still the same, peer review process and their grades and everything else when they go to matching for those residencies. So all of those are possible within the Air Force.
Okay.
Wow, that's really cool.
That is. And I know we had a video where we introed the show with about the HPSP. Could you break that down a little bit further in detail for our audience?
Just discussing what it actually is.
Yes.
Yes. So the Health Professions Scholarship Program can be used for medical school students, dental school students, advanced nurse practitioners that are going for their doctorate in their nursing degrees, as well as certain allied health fields such as optometry, pharmacy, physician assistant, and clinical psychology. So it would pay for the remainder of their tuition, 100%, books, lab fees, any kind of things that are required through their program. And it also gives them a monthly stipend, which is approximately $2,500, $2,600 currently, and it goes up with inflation annually. And it just helps them focus on their education without having to worry about their bills, how they're paying them, and everything that's coming around the corner. So it's a great program, and then they automatically transition into active duty Air Force whenever their education is complete.
What's the commitment for that?
So for most of them, it's year for year. So for example, if we have a medical school student come in for a 4-year scholarship, they will have a 4-year commitment. The only difference in that would be if their residency being an obscenely long residency, then there can sometimes add on to it because they're served concurrently, not consecutively, which, sorry if that's, but typically it's year for year. So
Okay.
if we're coming in for 3-year sponsorship, they're going to owe us 3 years on the backside.
Man.
Obscenely long, meaning more than 29 months.
A typical doctor, 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of med school, 3 to 5 years of residency, and then they can start their contract with the Air Force.
Man.
I'm counting.
Jesus.
Math's not strong suit.
That's
That's a lot of months.
that's
It's more
about-
than 29.
Sounded like 11 years.
Yeah, 11 years, 10,
Oh,
11
my
years.
gosh.
Man, okay, 29 months is fast. All right, next question.
What's your advice for someone in their last semester in med school interested in Air Force on student visa? Well, I'll let one of the health professions recruiters get that one too.
I could answer that one. So in order to qualify to be a commissioned officer in the Air Force, in general, you have to be a U.S. citizen.
Boom. Clean cut. Okay, so before we get out the gate, U.S. citizenship is absolutely required.
Right.
Right? Or was it green card?
Well, even with the green card, you couldn't join as an officer. So.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Have
you
to
would.
have the full citizenship, but they do allow dual citizenship now.
They allowed, yes, dual citizenship. But in order to even qualify to be an officer, you got to first get a U.S. citizenship.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's just say now that they have their U.S. citizenship or dual citizenship, then what?
Oh, so let's answer that question as if it wasn't on student visa. This is just somebody finishing up med school and they want to join the Air Force. What's your advice to them?
I guess I'll jump on that one again. So if they're finished up their med school, if it's this time of year, they already know where they're getting matched to. We can still look at getting in a FAP application, which would then cover them through residency. If not, they would go through the residency that they're already matched to, and in their final year, they can apply to be a fully qualified physician with us.
Awesome.
Gotcha. All right, moving on. Next
So
question.
we actually have something as well available for the Air Force Reserve. It's a stipend program similar to the FAP, just a little bit different. We offer a monthly stipend of $2,600, roughly a month. You, in order to qualify for that, you have to be matched in a residency for internal, family, or emergency physician and critical care. Now, what you're required to pay back to the Air Force Reserve is two for one. So if you collect a check for the year, you owe back the Air Force Reserve 2 years of your time.
Okay, so it's 2 for 1.
Yep.
Got it.
Gotcha. Nice.
Awesome.
Next. If you do not want to join as an officer, would the 11 years still be required?
For a health profession's career. So the only reason why that person did 11 years was because they were trying to apply for a specific role as a doctor in the Air Force. If you're not trying to be a doctor in the Air Force, then you wouldn't need that 11 years of education to join. You could join with a high school diploma, or that's the enlisted route, or you can join with a bachelor's degree to become a commissioned officer. But the 11 years of education is not a requirement for the common people to join the Air Force.
I think that was just like 11 years was a rough estimate of how long it takes to become a full practicing doctor.
Oh, is he saying like if you can get it done faster?
I don't know. They said if you do not want to join as an officer, would the 11 years still be required? So the answer is no.
No.
Right?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
But I think the 11 years was in reference to the amount of time that it
yeah,
takes
that's
for
specific.
traditional civilian side, you know, become a doctor. Unless we got it wrong, in which case correct us in the comments and we'll come back to it. But for now, next question.
Oh, that's Kaz. That's a student I recently just graduated.
All right, never mind then. Next question.
Next one. I just recently graduated. Okay, so as a new recruiter, shout out to the top tier instructor. What should I be doing during high school visits? Oh man, I spent too much time on being excited about you. What should I do about during high school visits to better prepare students for those harder to get medical jobs? Oh, see, that's a great question. So as a recruiter, we had a bunch of people who see all the medical career fields that we have for the enlisted side. We have a ton of medical career fields, right? And people get really excited about them, and then they come in to the recruiter's office and they realize that they weren't the only ones that got excited about them. Also, 1,000 other people got excited about those medical career fields. So we don't have them. They're not available. And so people get upset like, oh, I really wanted to work in one of these medical career fields. So Cass and everybody else listening, what I would tell them is look at some of the commissioning programs that the Air Force has. So a lot of the medical career fields that we have on the enlisted side, you're helping the doctors. You're not actually in that doctor's role. You're helping them. So we have a bunch of different commissioning programs, like a nurse enlisted commissioning program, the IPAP. We have, what else do we have?
Direct commissioning program.
What was that?
The direct enlisted commissioning
Direct.
program.
Oh, so, yeah. If you had a degree in medical, you can directly commission into one of the medical career fields. But the Air Force has some commissioning programs that can help you get your education and then use that education to work in one of the health profession careers that the Air Force has. So you don't need to work in a medical career field initially. You can work in any career field that the Air Force has and try to qualify for one of those commissioning programs. So that was what I would tell them, Cass. Just look into some of those medical commissioning programs and see if those work, and then take a job. Take one of the jobs that the Air Force has, take advantage of the education, and then make that your long-term goal when you join. That would be what I say to them. Hopefully that makes sense.
It made sense to me.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'm working then.
Next question. I completed undergrad and have a bachelor's degree. How much does HPSP pay for pharmacy school? I would imagine one of our recruiters should know this one, if there's a right answer for it. That's the problem, is like I don't know even where to start, or if that's on the right vein. But
so HPSP doesn't actually have a cap. So HPSP will cover up to the full tuition of the school that they're going to. So if they're selected into a PharmD program and they get accepted for our scholarship, we will pay 100% of that tuition and all those books and lab fees, as well as give you that roughly $2,600 a month stipend while you're going through the program.
So all of it.
So Sergeant Bender, recently, I got a sophomore in high school right now, so we're getting letters in the mail from colleges. One of them sent in a letter, and they said that their tuition a year is $61,000 a year. You're telling me the HPSP will cover that if somebody went to a school that expensive?
Yes. So I was a recruiter in Boston, and I covered Brown, Harvard, and Yale, and we had no issues covering full tuition.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez. That's crazy.
That is.
That's exciting, right?
That
so
really
that's,
is.
You're not limiting the potential there for sure.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's, man. That's y'all got to take advantage.
No kidding. I'm like, maybe I'd
take advantage.
Go
All right, next question.
Talk to an HPSP recruiter.
Is there an age limit? So the normal age limit for joining the Air Force is up to your 40th birthday. You have to be in training before your 40th birthday. But for my HP recruiters, have y'all seen I guess changes or waivers on those age limits? Can you answer that?
So for us on the medical side, active duty, it's going to be for healthcare administrator. It's that regular 40. For the allied health fields, similar to like physician assistant, that's going to be 42. And then our doctors, nurses, and dentists is before their 48th birthday. And that's without any waivers or exceptions to policy.
And how often have you seen waivers go beyond that 48th birthday?
So I know this year we have had 2 that have been accepted, but they are because they are like 6 months over the limit.
Okay.
And they bring a lot of experience to the table. So those are really the factors when they look at those types of waivers is this going to be beneficial to the Air Force, and how far beyond that cutoff are we going?
Yeah.
Got it.
And if you're listening in and you're unfamiliar with the process, we keep talking about waivers. Basically, the idea is if there is an exception to normal policy where we would normally have drawn a line somewhere, and you have a case that can be argued to be very close and it can be justified, the Air Force is willing to take a close look at your particular example and consider it for an exception outside of the normal policy for acceptance. So most important thing there is if you're close, don't be discouraged by that. Still go talk to a recruiter and see what the options are, because we would be missing out as an Air Force if we completely missed the opportunity to take your experience and expertise and we weren't able to use that inside the Air Force just because you were under the impression that you were just outside of a window. So if you're close, go talk to a recruiter, because there's a good chance we can still make it work.
Awesome.
So, all right, next question. Do you have to get degrees to get into the military? No.
As a health professionals, yes.
No.
But
the military.
Just to get into the military, no. So the way they break up the military, you have the enlisted side and you have the commissioned side. The enlisted side, the only requirement is a high school diploma for you to join. And if you commission, then you would need a 4-year degree, at least a 4-year degree in order to join. So you have to figure out which side is going to work best for you.
Yep. And that'll dictate how much education you need.
Yep.
Yep. All right, next question.
Do you hire respiratory therapists or a wellness coach? Do we have those positions? Anyone want to share?
Seniors shaking her head.
Yes, that's actually one of my career fields that I oversee at the 4 H's, which are respiratory therapists. So yes, we do have those positions all over the world.
Oh, very
Okay,
cool.
awesome.
What does a respiratory therapist do?
So, working with respiratory therapists, because I'm not a respiratory therapist, but working with them, they do a lot of with the ventilator management. And I know some of the specific specialties that they can get with the SEI identifiers are CCAT, which is your critical care air transport team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a flying ICU. So they take care of patients and manage their ventilators and breathing tubes and all that good stuff in the air.
Oh, that's very cool.
Awesome.
It's like that's like the job on the ground, but you put it in a plane and now you're an aerial doctor. That's cool. I mean, that's one of the really cool things about the Air Force is like we've got all these awesome jobs, right?
Yeah.
But like there's a good majority of our jobs that are just the same in the air.
Yes.
Which people don't think about, but there's a lot of different things that we do in the air
That we do
while
on the
we're
ground.
moving that we do on the ground and also civilian side
Right.
does on the ground. So it's like add a plane. It's like, Acme just add water kind of thing.
Yep.
And just add a plane, Air Force
You
stuff.
know, as you're speaking about this, though, you say we have a lot of the same jobs we do in the air that we do on the ground. As a recruiter, a lot of people think we do all of our jobs in the air.
True,
For
yeah.
for the Air Force. So
We also all fly.
Yeah, we also all fly. So I had to constantly educate people like, hey, Air Force also has a ton of jobs on the ground.
Yeah.
And people are like, what?
Yeah, if you can think of a type of job, chances are we've got it. In the ground. Or on the ground. Not in the ground. No. On the ground and in the air. So, all right, next question.
All right. I understand this is for healthcare. However, can you tell me what opportunities are for IT, cybersecurity, and software engineering? I think Major from the background, Major Lane from the background had spoke on this last time. Could you share some insight again, Major Lane?
Yeah, there's tons of opportunities in IT, cybersecurity, and software engineering. If you can score high enough on the ASVAB and get an enlisted job in those career fields, again, there's a lot of opportunities. On the officer side, the way we do our selections, at least when I went through officer training school, maybe some of the other officers can kind of talk to what it looked like from the academy or ROTC, but I'm almost certain it's pretty similar. But you will put a list of like 3 or 4 jobs you want, and then if the Air Force have a need for those jobs, then they most likely try to select you with one of those. But the other one, which is a lot of opportunities right now, which is almost all the opportunities they have are with Space Force. So if you have any experience in those areas and you want to go Space Force, which we also recruit for Space Force as well, which is why you see the Space Force logo on the screen, then there's opportunities for that as well.
Thank you, Major Lane.
That's where I was going to go with Space Force because a lot of that IT and cybersecurity stuff, Space Force handles a ton of that stuff.
Yep.
So, alrighty. Next question.
Oh, that's a great question right there. That can go in with that internet article that just came out.
How can you switch jobs in the Air Force and how's the process work? You apply, and then if you fit within a certain window of eligibility, you can, as long as your command is cool with it and the receiving command is cool with it, you can cross-train. You would go back to tech school, learn a new trade, and then basically continue on down that path. There was information just released. I don't remember exactly who. Yeah, I saw it today, where they're basically allowing people to cross-train inside a window of eligibility to any career field that is less than 90% staffed. So basically, if the career field that you're looking at is not 90% or above, you effectively can cross-train into that. As long as you meet the physical requirements, the ASVAB requirements, and stuff like that, you can effectively go cross train into anything you want if you're already in the military or if you're already in the Air Force. So there's a whole bunch of like data on it. I think it's a 1-year trial period that they're going to do.
They're going to try it for, ooh.
Yeah, they're going to do it for 1 year. So if you're interested in it, look into it quickly, and potentially pull the trigger on that, because it's not going to stick around forever. Well, if it does stick around forever,
Right.
it means that the first year went really well in trials. But it's a really cool opportunity because it's going to help retainability, right?
Yeah.
People that may not, want to continue doing the job that they do now, and they've had their eye on another job, but it's been really difficult for them to do. This is going to give them an opportunity to transfer over to that job, just assuming it's under 90% staffed, which is a pretty good majority. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
One thing I did when I had cross trained originally is I went and talked to my career advisor, and they kind of outlined some of the jobs that needed people. So I kind of had a gauge on the careers that I could look into. That way I wasn't just hopelessly aiming for career fields that I couldn't train into. So I would say get with your career advisor and kind of see if they can show you those career fields that are under 90% man. That way you can have an idea of like what you can cross train into. This should be huge for retention for the Air Force, allowing people to train into those different positions.
Mm-hmm. So we have some guests on today that have cross trained, or at least have taken on a duty assignment that made them do another job after. Like, say, for example, our recruiters. When you guys went through the process of going kind of away from your primary AFSC, what was that like? Talk to us about that process of leaving one job and kind of going to do another job.
So for me, it was prior to the DSD process. So I volunteered to be a recruiter back in 2008 and applied and went through that way. As we joked earlier, my career field was shrinking and it was combining with other ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that opportunity to branch out into something different, and I applied for multiple avenues. I applied for drill sergeant, recruiter, as well as flight attendants, and recruiting got back to me first, and I've been a recruiter ever since and love it.
That's
Awesome.
cool. Does anybody else have any experience doing another job and then having crossed over? Any other people with recruiting experience on the call or anything like that?
The major had.
I don't have recruiting experience, but I was an MTI
Okay.
for 3.5 years.
And then you went back into your career field.
Yes. 2013 to 17 is when I was an MTI, and it was before the DSD process. And they really needed female instructors at the time. So I got the awesome email saying, "Congratulations, you were selected to be an MTI." And I'm like,
Wait.
"What is an MTI? What do they do?" Oh no.
This was
And then
before the
when I went into
DSD?
it, I was like, "I'm a medic. I help people. I don't yell."
Yeah.
I had to learn quick. Yes.
Had to learn
switch
quick. Well, so for anybody listening that doesn't know, the DSD is a selection process by which people are picked to do other duties outside of whatever you do, and you're picked based on experience that you may have or eligibility that you have based on like your chain of command can decide to select you to be available for a position. So it's a special duty assignment selection process, and before that you would be picked for being an MTI, and they would just send you a letter, and it's like, I guess what, you're going to go be an MTI. I can imagine that was a bit of a shock. So also, yeah, and that's a valid point. Major Lane, he said, explain MTI. So an MTI is the Air Force's version of a drill instructor, boot camp instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Easiest way to think of it is any movie, or you see people, the guy with the cool hat that yells at everybody, that's an MTI.
Major Payne.
Major Payne, yeah. They don't yell as much anymore, but they still get to wear the cool hat.
It depends. Some of them still yell. Some of
So
them.
tell us about that steep learning curve and how you had to learn quickly to go from helping nicely to helping maybe a little more aggressively.
It was definitely a learning experience. I still say that was the hardest military school that I've had to go through was MTI training.
Oh, wow.
It was 3 months long, and then we had 90 days of on the job or with a trainer over a flight. You have somebody with you to help you, train the flight and everything like that. But yeah, the school was the hardest. I don't particularly like getting in front of people and speaking and things like that. So you had to adjust very quickly, and you had certain ways of teaching and rules and all that good stuff, and you're graded, and it's very strict and harsh. And I remember I got written up for points for smiling too much, can't smile too much, just little things, and I'm just like, whew, it was rough. And then, but once you become a certified instructor and you have your own flight and you transform those civilians into airmen, it's so worth it.
That sounds really rewarding. Also, just looking at the screen right now, I think you'd get written up a lot.
I gotta cut the smiling.
He's just
out.
smiling the whole time, so I can't even imagine.
I remember I went to my chief at the time before I got picked up for recruiting, and I was like, I want to be a recruiter, and he was like, you know what? I think you'll be a good recruiter. And like 2 weeks later, I was selected to the DSD process.
Wow, what a coincidence!
So I was like, how did I get picked up so fast? Recruiting needed people. So
Gotcha.
I thought that they just knew I was the guy for the job, but they
just
needed
has a way of making things happen.
But yeah, MTI would be that for my character. Oh man, that would take some hard training for me to get into that role. But since we have you, what's your biggest tip for civilians coming into the Air Force, going into basic training? What's the one thing you wish they all knew when you were in MTI?
Don't wait to get to basic training to work out. A lot of folks get hurt and they hurt themselves because they're not used to running or, doing the anaerobics and things like that. And they end up getting stress fractures and they just injure themselves. So work out before you come to basic training. That's a big thing. And we're not yelling at you it's not personal. It's business.
It's a lot of business. But yeah. Don't let basic training be the first time you run yourself out of breath. It's going to be a long road to fast. What's that?
Somebody on the guest panel went to the academy.
Somebody went to the academy. Yes, that would be the major went to the academy. And we're not going to hold that against her.
What was it like preparing for that? What would she say for that compared to BMT?
Okay. So what was the academy like compared to BMT? Not that, let's
The physical.
The physical stuff. Major, tell us about what the physical was like when you went to the academy.
How many days a week and how much was the intensity?
Well, all right. So we have our own BMT, if you will. It's called basic. But we have our own BMT before we enter our freshman year at the academy. It's 6 weeks long. It's pretty physically demanding. Not to say that BMT in San Antonio is not demanding. It absolutely is. However, doing it up at 7,000 feet above sea level is pretty intense. I'm a Florida girl. Going up to the academy the first time and trying to run 1.5 miles, my first week there was terrible. I was stuck in air. It was terrible. But yeah, it's very physically demanding. Same guidance is exactly what I would say is just don't wait. Make sure that you are running, you're walking, you're at least trying to build up your stamina and your strength. So that way when you arrive, it's not your first time trying to push your body, because BMT, no matter how physically fit you are, it's still going to push you because there's a mental aspect to it as well. So just make sure that you're ready to push yourself. And the first day you get there isn't the first time you're doing it.
Yeah. Solid advice.
Awesome.
Ooh, check this one out. BMT is fun. Just graduated April 20th.
Hey.
People clapping.
Queued up. Awesome.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Don't stop running. That's all I can say. It doesn't get easier as you get older.
Yeah.
So just keep running.
So April 20th, that was just like 12 days ago.
Yeah.
So awesome. Congratulations.
A couple weeks ago. That's awesome.
He's in tech school now.
Yep. How's he on his computer in the first 2 weeks of tech school?
He's on his phone.
Okay. I gotcha. All right. Anyone from non-medical field or degree can join the healthcare MOC. MOC, is that something different than MOS? I'm going to guess it's probably... So in the Air Force, we call them an AFSC, or an Air Force Specialty Code, which is the same as the Army's MOS, which is kind of like your job type. Can we pull that back up again real quick?
MOC in healthcare, what does that stand for?
I think they're just saying, can they go healthcare without a degree?
Yeah.
And that's the enlisted side.
So if you can go...
From non-medical field or degree.
So let's take it from a couple different angles.
Can join.
If you don't have the degree and you want to go healthcare, you'd go enlisted.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Or you could pursue a degree and go officer.
Yes.
So yes, absolutely. There's just different routes. And more questions, talk to your recruiter or ask more questions in the comments and we'll just keep answering them.
Yeah.
And on that note.
If it If I were to do AFROTC in college, will I go straight into commissioning as an officer, or will I still go through officer training school? And is it easier to go in as an officer if I do ROTC in college? I would say in theory, it should make becoming an officer easier. But as far as the other part of your question, straight into commissioning as an officer, or will you still go through OTS? Would somebody, one of the recruiters or anyone else on the panel, take that one?
Did anybody here do ROTC by any chance? No?
Okay, I can take it.
Never mind.
All right,
Oh, wait, hold on. Major Lane, you did ROTC, didn't you?
I taught ROTC.
Oh,
I'm gonna
we
shut
got
up.
an expert.
I'm gonna sit down.
Yeah, so let me. Is my mic hot?
Your mic's hot.
Okay, I'm live. Thanks. So if I were to do Air Force RTC in college, will I go straight into commissioning as an officer? Yes. Will I still go through officer training school? No. And is it easier to go in as an officer if I do ROTC in college? And that is subjective. So I went through OTS. OTS is basically the officer version of basic training. Colonel Homestead, did you do OTS or Academy?
OTS.
Okay, so Colonel Homestead, I'll let her talk the OTS piece, but since she's our guest on the show. But I did OTS as well, and I taught at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs! I taught at the University of Georgia ROTC. So there are two different programs. In ROTC, you will go through your basic training the summer after your sophomore year before you go your junior year. And so fun fact too, you're not contracted in ROTC until you graduate that summer and then come back as a junior. At that point is when you're on track to becoming an officer. I would say, and hopefully nobody in the ROTC world get mad at me, but I would say ROTC is probably the easiest route to become an officer. OTS, your record got to be almost perfect to get in. The academy, that's 4 years of just straight hardcore militariness. And then ROTC, you get to be a college student first, and then you do ROTC as an elective. And then you have a couple of classes a week, and then you go through we call it field training, not basic training. We call it field training in ROTC. And right now, I was on the Tiger team that changed it. It went from like 2 months to like 13 days. So you have 13 days of like field training, and then you just finish the rest of your college career and you become an officer, which is a pretty sweet deal. Colonel Homestead, you want to kind of talk the OTS and how that's different than ROTC?
Yeah, and so and to back up, right? So if you have OTS and you're saying, is it easier as an officer? Is it easier to get into the military, or is it easier once you're in the military? So got to remember that we have like a few different commissioning sources. So we have, recruiters know this, but we have quotas for each different type of commissioning source. So that aside, coming into OTS, like you said, we see some great records on the nursing boards. I mean, just stellar candidates, and we want to accept a lot more than we can, and we have limits as to the number of sessions we can bring in each year. So we can't go over, and we try to hit that number every year. OTS, I went when it was 5 weeks. Now it's 8 weeks. I don't say I'd want to do it again, right? Maxwell, when I went, it was cold. You had to run. Everyone's talking about the PT. I wasn't ready for it. We had to do 5 miles. I'm never going to do 5 miles again in my life, okay? I don't like that. I don't want to run. I just want to sit and take care of patients. But OTS, it's challenging, but it's nothing that, if you're a health professional, that you can't get through. You have to work at it. You just listen. You work with your team. You listen to your training instructors. And if you're grounded, you know who you are and you know what you're capable of. And so if folks are yelling at you, say I got, Senior Ward yelling at me, that's okay. She's just trying to, build me up, just trying to make me the best officer that I can be. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to do it again, but I wouldn't want to run, 2 miles today either. So we'll take that with a grain of salt. But it's nothing that you can't do if you don't put your mind to it.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you, Major Lane. Thank you, Colonel.
I want to petition to get like a little selfie or like a cool picture of Major Lane that we can put up, like on
Every time he talks?
Yeah. Like on the news channel or whatever, they got somebody that calls in and there's like just a picture, and then underneath is like the wavelength, the little waveform that happens as they're talking, and it's like calling in. Have a little picture of him. That way, because otherwise we're all just like kind of staring off, listening to this voice.
Yeah.
Which is valuable. Like, we did give him a microphone because he keeps having all this great stuff to add, but it's like, if you're just joining the show and there's just some random person talking and we're all just sitting here listening, I'm like, we should have like a little picture. Make it like a cool picture. Like we get to pick it. He doesn't get to pick it.
I think it'd be queued up for the next one.
Well, he's the one that runs he's the producer back there. So he'd just be like, yeah, you can have it. I'm just not going to put it up there. All right. Next question.
Are there any veterinarian opportunities? Not for Air Force. I do believe Army has some. This is just me thinking.
Yep, you're right.
I'm right? Okay.
Yeah, that's the MWD, the military working dogs, right? Because our dogs go to Army vets, don't they?
Oh, really?
I think.
I'm not sure.
Scratch that.
I was the vet, and then we had our dog handlers as well that were Air Force enlisted.
Okay. We missed the first part of what you said. Can you say that again?
Oh, sorry. I was deployed with an Army vet.
Okay.
That enlisted dog.
So those dogs went to the Army vet, though?
Yes, she was the one in theater.
I gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. I don't know if that's a regular thing, both stateside and downrange, but I was under the impression that even the Air Force military working dogs go to Army vets, just because it's inside DOD. Yep. Security Forces canine dogs go to Army vets.
There we go.
I'm glad somebody's out there verifying it, because I said it, because I was pretty sure. But then I was like, wait a minute. I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I didn't know.
And I also realized we don't have... Well, no. Major, you didn't ever work with the military working dogs, did you?
They chased me.
They chased
Hit
you.
me.
Okay. You worked with
I got
them.
to catch them.
You were part of their training exercises.
They chased me.
Yeah, so I was, for those who don't know, when I was enlisted out security forces, and yes, we got opportunities where I was stand eval, so I would qualify people on their jobs. And so when we do their exercise portion, if it was a K9 person, that dog, I may be hide in the field or something, and the dog has to find me, and then the dog would escort me back to the car, that kind of stuff. And then there's opportunities for you to wear the suit and train and help the dogs train with their biting techniques. So I got to do a little bit of that, but I never was a handler. Fun fact: when you can cross train as a first-term airman, but in security forces or military police, for those who don't know what security forces is, they call it a lateral train. So had I became K9, I would still be a security forces member.
I like the way that you use the term opportunity.
Yeah.
Because you had the opportunity to be chased and bitten by a dog.
I'm
like, it sounds to me like the dog had the opportunity.
And I'm trying to figure out, was this like a, hey, you come get chased by this dog? Or was this a, hey, I want to go volunteer to get chased by this dog?
I was about to shout out this comment. I saw that. Security Forces rocks, because when there's nothing to do, you're welcome. That means they're doing their job. Heck yeah.
If I could pivot back to the veterinary comment. So we don't have true veterinarians. However, we do hire people with DVMs because we can hire them as public health officers. So if you have a veterinary degree, we can actually bring you in as a public health officer.
Looky there.
Awesome.
There's another comment backing that up. All right, let's get to the next question. We're kind of moving through them. I like it. No problem. Any waivers for mood disorders?
Major.
All right. I guess I'm up again. All right. So mood disorders, there's a whole array of mood disorders. There's a very large spectrum of psychiatric diagnoses. Short answer, yes. There are waivers. You just have to meet the criteria for the waivers. Going back to the DOTI, which is what the CMOs use at MEPS, so the chief medical officers at MEPS when you do your entrance exam, that DOTI specifies what is disqualifying based on a history of certain diagnoses and how long an applicant has been off of medications for those diagnoses. Typically, the CMO will disqualify someone who has used a psychotropic medication, so like a antidepressant or an antipsychotic, things like that, in the past 36 months, so 3 years. So that being said, yes, there are waivers. So do not be discouraged if you or an applicant that you're working with gets disqualified at MEPS. We just won't go over the waiver criteria for right now.
Gotcha.
Got
Very
it.
cool. I'm looking at the comments section here. We've got probably 80 or 90 questions. So because we've got about 15, 20 minutes left in the show, we will not be able to get to all of them. So if we don't get to your question, make sure to continue it on. We've got people in the comments in the chat that will be answering your questions in real time. And then also, like we said earlier, we've got members standing by to answer your questions. If you call the number, go to airforce.com or use the QR code, and that'll get those questions answered if we don't get to them here. So that being said, we're going to kind of enter the rapid fire round section of the show where we try to see how quickly we can answer the questions, but we also want to make sure that we answer them thoroughly. So as we throw them up there, we're just going to kind of give quick answers and see how many we can get. I think our record is like 15 in that last 15.
I
No,
keep
like
messing it
10.
up.
I think like 10 in that last 15 minutes.
I mess it up.
I wouldn't say that. I would say you're passionate about explaining things.
My wife told me, she said, you don't understand what rapid answers are. So today,
Passionate about answering
Today,
things.
I'm going to go fast.
Thanks, Douglas. Appreciate you. Kind words are always nice. All right, let's do it. What will me already having 5 years as an active nationally registered EMT do for me if I enlist? Somebody says, oh yeah, you said that you have to, Major, you said you have to be EMTs.
I think Senior Ward did.
Oh, senior ward. Sorry, my mistake.
Yeah, so that's one of the requirements is being a 4N is you have to be an EMT. We go through the EMT course in tax school, but if you're already a nationally registered EMT, you just provide your certifications when you're going through tax school and you can skip that block and automatically retain your EMT.
So definitely a benefit. Love it.
Castle.
That's right. I don't have to go to this class. So that's cool. Anybody that gets a head start by bringing certifications, qualifications in ahead of time that are nationally recognized and are recognized by our training sources, nice.
I'm on phase 2 of interviews for active duty, 46 and 3 Echo. Do the letters of recommendations need to be in memo format? That's going to be one of the HP recruiters. Oh, I think Sergeant Bender.
Well, that gets Sergeant Mendoza.
I mean, for the nurses, so while Bender's getting back, it's helpful if they're in a presentable format, right? Because you're looking at your memos, which are going to be read by folks, which are board record. So usually the letters that we get are in some sort of memo fashion, not like in an email, like that's converted to a PDF, but by the person on some sort of letterhead or memo from whatever company they're working at.
Too easy.
Got it.
Sounds good. Next question. What about the opportunities for professional Latins? What's a professional Latin?
I think they're probably a foreign, it gets back to our foreign national question.
Oh, okay. So you're talking about like potentially like Spanish speaking?
I wonder if he's thinking without a citizenship, maybe with a green card, or I'm not sure. The question. I
Hit
do
him
know
with the recruiter answer.
I do know we have the IAFA Center, but that's going to be working with foreign partners, where we have all kind of different leadership schools in IAFA where we work with our foreign partners. But beyond that, that's the only thing I know that we do with like specifically Latin culture. So if you do not have your U.S. citizenship, you can join with the green card.
Here's a question for you, and this I think our HP recruiter can probably help. The HP recruiter who's still here. What if somebody has? Sorry, I'm not trying to dime out Master Sergeant Bender, but he keeps popping in and out.
I'm back.
Don't worry about it, sir. We're just talking smack when you're gone. That's all.
Back.
He's like, watch your mouth.
Sorry.
So what if somebody has medical education from somewhere outside the U.S., whether they're there we go. Look at that. Nice. Please, can internationally trained nurses apply? So if you've got training from a different country, whether you're dual citizenship or whether you have gotten education outside the country but now are a U.S. citizen, how does that work?
So for our doctors,
we can do both.
Yeah, for our doctors, and it'll apply the same thing for active duty. The only time we allow a physician with foreign education to come in is when they have an ECFMG. I don't know sorry for giving an acronym, but I don't know the title, but yes, only ECFMG. As far as our nurses, we do get that quite often where they have a foreign education from the Philippines or from a different country. Unfortunately, they have to have a degree from the U.S. Now, that doesn't stop them. Let's say they have a BSN, it was translated in the United States, and they're practicing as a nurse in the United States. They can still go and obtain an MSN, a master's degree of nursing, and then later on apply to become a nurse in the Air Force.
Gotcha. We have got a very capable audience, and a lot of times when we throw out an acronym, Master Sergeant Reed and myself will be like, I don't remember what that stands for. Within 30 seconds, typically somebody pops in the comments and reminds us. So ECFMG, I'm sure if we keep an eye on that comment thread, someone's going to remind us what it is, and we can all learn something today. But yeah, I have no idea, but I will keep an eye out for that acronym down there. All right, next question. Is social work included?
Can you be a social worker? Do we have social work positions in the Air Force? The colonel's shaking her head. Ma'am?
Yes.
Rapid hands.
All right, next question.
Yes.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you don't need any experience for it.
See, boom, look at that. Look at that.
Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates.
Thanks, Rob. You're the true hero today. Appreciate you. All right. Who can you reach out to a recruiter if you have previous military service?
Oh,
take it away.
So that's the prior service part. That's one of the toughest ways to come back into the Air Force. If you're trying to come back in the enlisted side, if you have prior service experience and you're trying to become an officer, you can pretty much start the process as a normal applicant. But if you're trying to join back in the enlisted side, the positions are limited for prior service applicants. So you just got to get with the recruiter, see what's available, and then see if any of it is interesting to you, and then start the process of applying as a prior service applicant.
What about Guard and Reserve?
Oh, Guard and Reserve are loving prior service applicants. So if you have prior service experience from any component or any branch, Guard and Reserve is looking for that. They have tons of positions available where they will hire, whereas active duty, the positions are limited.
Yeah, I see Sergeant Mendoza. He's just like,
He's like, come my way.
No, I was about to. And then earlier you were asking about, I didn't want to go too in depth, asking about cross training on the reserve side and the Guard. I want to say it's super simple to cross train. As long as the job qualifies, your ASVAB scores qualify for that specific job, and your physical exam, there's actually numbers that are generated when you do your physical exam. The recruiter will be able to match that up for Guard and Reserve and see what's available at that specific base. If the job's available at that base, we can plug you right into that.
And
if not, we would have to look at other options.
What's the timeline on that? How soon can somebody switch careers after they've completed their training? Like their
3 years.
initial 3 years?
3 years.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
Thank you.
All you.
I have a family nurse practitioner degree and I have a doctorate degree. What opportunities are available to me?
A lot more than they are to me. Nurse practitioner, family nurse practitioner, and doctorate. Nice.
Yes. There are a lot of places where FMPs can go to all over. I mean, I think FMPs have the most locations and the most authorizations of any advanced practice nurse that we have out there. So lots of opportunities, and we're always looking for folks with doctorates. Additionally, like once you're in and you're in for a little bit, FMPs can branch out to another fairly new AFSC. It's an aeromedical nurse practitioner. And these are similar to the flight docs and PAs that are working in the flight medicine clinic, taking care of patients and doing those sort of things. Those folks with a doctorate can also teach. We have phase 1 and phase 2 sites, and these sites are for our nurses that have been selected to get their degrees through an AFIT program, an Air Force Institute of Technology. So let's say folks have an RN, they want to be an FMP just like you. They get selected for a program, and the Air Force pays for their degree, pays for them to go to school, but we need folks to teach it. And only folks with doctorates can teach at Bethesda. And then our phase 2, which is where our folks are doing their clinical within the MTFs.
Gotcha. That's really cool. Thank you. Great answer. All right, I can read all this one. I see you, sir. Hit it.
Yeah,
Got it.
It's a big one.
I'm also trying to apply to the Air Force Academy. I didn't make it this last round, but I'm going to be trying again while in college. I had the fitness score and I had the letters and congressional nomination, but then was medically disqualified for a condition that only affects infants. I was cleared over 15 years ago. What should I do about the medical side this time around of me applying? And Major Catrine. I almost was about to say Keeley, and then it messed up the Catrine. So Major Catrine, do you have any intake of what I should do to have a better chance of making the academy? So somebody coming in with a medical condition that they were cleared of a long time ago.
He's saying he got cleared as a child, but not by us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So it really depends on what the condition was, and without that information, I really can't talk too much about it. And I don't know how much medical information this person wants to put online, but please keep trying. Get medical, at least speaking in general about medical waivers whenever you are denied. Just make sure that you have updated information. Make sure that you get a new medical evaluation from your PCM or specialist, whoever deals with the condition you were disqualified for. Just get a new updated evaluation with the provider documenting a thorough history and a prognosis on the condition. So what they think the chances of it reoccurring or how it can affect you down the line. Submit that and just keep trying. Don't take no for an answer the first time. Just keep trying.
Awesome.
Persistence is key. Keep talking to a recruiter. And also, when you want something bad enough, keep trying. If one route is not working, find another route, make it work. All right, next question.
Why is it so hard to get to speak to a recruiter? Oh, no.
That is a valid question.
Oh, no.
Okay, so this one kind of comes with a bit of reality and also more of that persistence, right?
Yeah.
So I know for a fact Air Force recruiters are not as heavily populated out there as, say, for example, Army recruiters. You go to a recruiter station and there's going to be multiple Army recruiters there. And the Air Force recruiters are spread a little thinner. I'd like to say that that's because we're better.
We could do more with
right.
less.
So, we're more efficient. But, yeah, you've been in the field.
So that is very honest. Like the other, branches, they have tons of recruiters in the office. The Air Force recruiters are limited. We usually have one recruiter per zone or one recruiter per office sometimes. So we are out and about. In order for us to put people into the Air Force, we have to be out at schools. We have to be out in the community, just making relationships and talking to people. So a lot of times it's just hard to track down that one recruiter. I know we've had this question before in the show. Most of the time it's that. Now, sometimes, you may have a recruiter that is just really hard to track down for other reasons. So your job is to just stay persistent. Just keep calling, emailing, texting, knocking on the door until you get some traction. I always loved it when somebody showed how persistent they were and how dedicated they were to joining, because it let me know that they were going to basically meet the Air Force needs and do everything I needed them to do to get this process started. So the more persistence you show, the more traction you should get from that recruiter.
And also use the resources at your disposal. Airforce.com, the phone number, we could pop that QR code back up again, the Aim High app. There are lots of different ways out there to stay in touch with your recruiter, and you just keep at it. Yeah. So if you're having a hard time finding one, and that's the other thing to also keep in mind, is if it's a consistent thing and you think there might be an issue with that particular location, a lot of times there are other locations. Like we're in San Antonio now, and I know that there's a couple of them here. Like you can go to a different location and try something else. Like I was saying just a second ago, persistence. If you're trying one particular route and it's not working, keep aiming for the same end, but try a different route. Maybe try a different recruiter's office, or like I said, phone numbers, the website, Aim High app. Those are really, really good resources, and we'll get to you, I promise.
Yeah, and also too, that's one of the reasons we started this show, was to help people be able to get their questions answered until they can go see a recruiter, right? So continue to watch the show. Matter of fact, for Guard and Reserve, to plug them as well. When we had our Guard show, the general actually was like, hey, reach out to my staff directly. I think they put 5 people in the day after our show. Yeah. So this is another resource for you as well, to help you to get those questions answered while you're waiting to be able to see your local recruiter.
That is why we're here.
Yeah, we are taking some of that stress off of the recruiters and getting a lot of the questions that you all want answered right here live. Awesome.
That was good. I like that.
Yeah.
That was a good little plug. All right. If I don't have clinical experience, would the Air Force still be willing to cover my med school and residency?
Short answer is yes. So whenever you're trying to go through medical school, obviously you haven't got to that level yet in your education. So that's irrelevant. We're going to be taking you on as a student as long as you meet the certain qualifications with the GPA and your MCAT scores, and then we'll take you the rest of the way from there.
Gotcha.
Got it.
All right. Next question.
Are there waivers for scoliosis? Oh, good question. My daughter has her master's in psychology and is pursuing her PhD. Does the Air Force offer waivers? I think that's a two-part question that Major can help and some of the recruiters can help with.
So I'll tackle the waivers for scoliosis. Again, going back to the DOTI, there is a degree. History of scoliosis is disqualifying per the DOTI. But for individuals who have symptomatic scoliosis, so say you have back pain, if you're over 30 degrees of scoliosis, or if it's going to inhibit the wear of military gear, then typically a waiver will not be considered. However, each case is looked at individually. So even if you do get disqualified at MEPS, please submit all your records, all your clinical notes, all your imaging results, and we will look it over carefully and we can determine if a waiver can be given.
Thank you. And the second part of that question was, I think they had a degree in, daughter has her master's in psychology, is pursuing her PhD. Does the Air Force offer waivers? Okay, so it was just one total question about the scoliosis. So awesome. Let's get the next question.
Answering on what my condition was, I had Kawasaki.
Oh, that's the second time.
I have been cleared through MEPS when I was planning on enlisting before I decided I wanted to go the officer route.
So I think that was for
Coming back.
That was for the Major, because she said how much information you want to share online.
Yep. Nope. Appreciate you following back up again.
Major.
So Kawasaki's is a little complicated just because of all the complications that can occur when you have the disease as a child. It attacks the vascular system, so it can actually have lifelong complications in major organs, specifically the heart. So I don't know if this person got a cardiology eval. That's okay. I don't need to know it. It really just depends on what evaluations were requested after we saw his medical waiver request, and what results came from that. More than likely, we've got some sort of cardiology consult. We may have gotten a pulmonology consult. There's a few other things that we might have gotten, and depending on what the results were from that determines what the waiver outcome is. Kawasaki's, again, it just has those lifelong complications, and I cannot say I personally have seen a waiver given for Kawasaki's. That's just because I haven't really seen too many cases of them. It doesn't mean that they don't exist. I just haven't seen them yet.
Gotcha. So what recommendation would you have for them for next action? What should they do?
Again, just get more medical information, more updated information. If they have old medical documentation that wasn't reviewed previously, if there were pieces of the consult that weren't submitted previously, any new information, whether it be old or now, like obtained in the next few months, just submit new medical documentation for review.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. If I join the A&G during pharmacy school, is there any benefits besides HPSP that would help the cost?
I joined the Air National Guard during pharmacy school. So I don't think does Air National Guard offer the HPSP, or is that an active duty program?
I would, for the Guard is tricky. Every state has their own benefit. I would definitely engage with that specific Guard recruiter at that state and see what they have to offer.
Right. So yeah, just piggybacking or turtle shelling, however we want to say it, off of what he said. Guard, they have different state programs, so every state is going to be different. Just reach out to your Guard recruiters. They should be able to help you understand some of the programs and benefits they have.
All right.
I'm about to get a criminal justice bachelor degree in the summer, but I'm interested in becoming an aircraft maintenance technician or mechanic. Hey, that's what we need. What can I do to accomplish that goal with the Air Force? I muted it for you.
Nice.
I muted it for you. I was quick. So you're about to finish school with a criminal justice degree, but you're interested in becoming an aircraft maintenance technician or mechanic. So those are two different worlds. Your criminal justice bachelor's degree, you can become an officer in the Air Force and pursue a commission route, or you can continue to complete your bachelor's degree, get your 4-year degree, and decide to join enlisted on the Air Force side and work as a maintainer or technician on aircraft. That's going to come down to you. I would say look at the difference in both sides, as a commission and enlisted side, see which side makes more sense to you. I will be honest with you, the commission side is going to pay you a little bit more, but if you don't find joy in the work and you want to work on aircrafts, then the enlisted side may be more pleasant for you. So I'd say just do your research, figure it out, and then reach out to a recruiter.
Curious on aerospace medical service. Are they opportunities to gain a higher certification, current NREMT, looking for paramedic, flight medic, IDMT, specifically Guard or reserves? We've got some experience on that, I think. Yeah. The Guard and reserves. Sergeant Mendoza?
It's hard for me to, because certain positions I don't deal with very often. I would encourage that person to reach out to that specific recruiter in their area, and they'll be able to give them more of a specific answer.
Okay. Fair enough. So talk to your recruiter, and they'll be a little bit more tailored to the specifics for your situation.
We're at about 10 more minutes for the show?
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes.
All right. So 10 minutes. And if we don't get your questions answered, once again, reach out to that number. Also, look at the QR code, scan it. And like I say, these people are working full time around the clock to get your questions answered when we're not doing a live stream.
That's right.
So we got 10 more minutes. Try to get as many as possible, okay?
Here we go.
Does the Space Force have diagnostic imaging job for Guardians? And one more question, which is not medical question, but I would be happy if I can get an answer. Does the Space Force have reserve? Thank you.
That's a good question.
So the Space Force right now doesn't have, as far as I'm seeing, they don't have any medical positions. All of their positions are, in the cyber field and working with space systems. So all their positions are highly technical. But the Air Force does have diagnostic imaging, and the Air Force is going to provide medical for Air Force and Space Force personnel. So that's it for now. We don't know how big the Space Force is going to grow, so I can't answer what the future is going to look like. You had a second part to that question.
Do they have a reserve?
No, Space Force right now is an active duty program. So like I say, we don't know how big they're going to grow, if they're going to start having Guard and reserve members, but right now it's just active duty.
But if you join the Air Force, you can go to Space Force later.
Yes.
I was going to say diagnostic imaging too is for officers and enlisted. You have the people reading them, and then you have the people doing the exams as well. So
valid. Yep. All right. Next question. What is the biggest challenge for a health professional in the Air Force?
Ooh, that's a lot of weight.
Let's hear from everybody.
Let's do quick answers from everybody. Major, how about you? What's the biggest challenge for you personally?
Personally, at least in clinic, I'm in a staff job right now, but when I was back in clinic, it was, oh gosh. Okay. So I would say was, burnout with COVID. It was felt across the U.S., civilian, military, everyone felt it. It was the burnout of trying to maintain seeing all your patients in a safe manner and making sure that they were all taken care of. We have definitely gotten better with that, and unfortunately, we're still seeing the effects of it today. Still happy to see my patients. It's just it's definitely taking a toll on everyone in healthcare field.
For sure,
Awesome.
I can only imagine. Colonel?
My biggest challenge is trying to do it all, right? You have to do your, and then you have to train, and then you have a million additional duties that you also need to do while trying to maintain your home life, what you like to do, your kids, whatever that may be. So sometimes that can be challenging, and it goes from the grassroots level of what you're doing to the leadership, right? So you've got commanders of medical groups that are saying we don't have enough time for these folks to train because they have all of these readiness requirements, and we know with the challenging um, future potential conflicts that are right around the corner, we need to train differently than we have been training for the last 20 years that we've been doing in Afghanistan and Iraq. So I would just say trying to do all of it.
I hear you.
That's felt. Yep, 100%. Senior, how about you?
Piggybacking off of what Colonel said, for me, it's like keeping up with all the changes. Medical's constantly changing. There's new things coming out all the time to stay, with the times. And then, of course, keeping up with the new readiness type requirements as well for medical folks. Our readiness is constantly changing as well.
Yep, gotcha.
Recruiting?
He's like, no challenges here. Everything's cake.
No challenges.
Yeah, I would say it's just for us when it comes to like drawing a healthcare provider or getting them interested, it's just education. So they've never explored this route or they already have a preconceived notion, so we have to overcome that. So it's more just getting them the information of the opportunities that exist out there in the Air Force for those providers.
Got it.
Sorry, Mendoza.
No issues here.
Perfect.
He's booming.
Perfect. Actually, so I have a kind of a follow-up question. Colonel, you mentioned balancing family and home life. I can't even imagine what that's like. Can you talk to me a little bit about what your recommendations are from your experiences, how you balance such a critical career and also home life with, kids and family and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's having a really understanding spouse. And fortunately, for me, he understands what's going on and knows that if I need to stay late, it's not because I don't want to be home or do something. It's because I need to be. And so sometimes, talking from previous experiences and some other people, it's like, hey, like you can't come home. We were supposed to go do this and now we can't. Or, hey, I need to go take care of the kids because you have to go TDY again. And it's just trying to find that balance and having that really good communication. And then also involving your family in whatever you can. So if there's stuff that you can do, whether it's, bringing them into the office for 5 minutes and saying hi to your boss and saying hi to the team, or having them go to your promotion or being involved with stuff, the more that they know, the more that they can be understanding of what you have to do at home.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
I completely agree. The support network is such a big part of being able to do what we do day in and day out. To have that at home is a blessing that I think maybe even if we don't take it for granted, we don't spend enough time giving credit to those other halves, those better halves most of the time. So definitely an opportunity to take a shout out, for our better halves and families that let us do what we do so we can keep the country a safer place. So
Yep.
a lot of love to everybody at home holding it down so we can do what we do, and especially so you guys as our guests, especially with the work that you guys do, and how critical that is to being able to maintain the Air Force as a whole. Thank you very much. I think we got time for probably one or two more questions, and then we are going to have to get out of here.
All right.
There you go.
Has doing these online Q&As been a game changer for recruiting?
I heard Major in the background. He said, I'm going to do a selfish one. Clicks that one up there.
Major, you
I don't know. I think it's been a game changer.
are you providing any input on this?
Yeah, I can. So,
A little background on who you are, too.
so I'm the acting chief of national advertising. I got here to be the deputy chief, but the acting chief, 2 days after we got here, said he's retiring. So I was like, great. So I've been the acting chief for 2 years now. But I would say, so this particular live stream production for us was a personal thing that I fought really hard to get. And I can tell you, I would say, yes, it has been a game changer. But more importantly, I think it's our Air Force core value, our second core value is service before self. And so me doing this was no kidding a service for each and every one of you who watch us for 2 hours at a time, ask all these questions, and just who are interested. And so my bosses and the people who put money behind this care about the return on investment. I personally care about getting you all the answers and giving you somebody to talk to, because I've heard it from everybody. It's hard for me to get a hold of a recruiter. Well, every other Tuesday you can get a hold of recruiters and all kind of other awesome people in the Air Force. And so, yes, it has been a game changer for recruiting, but it's also been, in my opinion, a game changer for our target audience and those who help them make decisions.
Yep. So, and we appreciate all the input. Feel free when you do your comments and your questions and stuff like that. If you got suggestions, throw them in there. This show is literally for you guys. There's not really a whole lot of other motive behind it other than getting the answers to you, giving you an opportunity to ask questions and have your questions answered live.
Yeah.
And we bring on a host of talent and expertise to help us make sure we get the right answers to you. So, one more.
I am a critical care nurse. I do not meet the weight requirements for the Air Force. I need to lose quite a bit, and I'm working on it. Should I wait to talk to a recruiter? So this is one of those. I guess harder to answer questions, because some recruiters are like, okay, you're not at the weight requirements, and since they're so busy, they don't want to allot any time to do appointments with people who don't meet the requirements. But I always say, just please try to reach out to a recruiter. That way, when you're on your journey to lose weight, there's not anything else that could disqualify you. So a lot of times somebody may lose weight and then they go see a recruiter and realize, oh, also this, also that, also this and that can disqualify you. And you're like, oh man, I just lost all this weight, which is still a good thing. But, I was doing it so I can join the Air Force. I would say talk to that recruiter first, figure out if there's anything else that's holding you up. And then that'll make you realize, okay, after I lose this weight, I actually have a chance of joining the Air Force. So say find a recruiter first and get that established.
And the chances are of you being the only person who needs to work out a little bit before joining, not likely. So you're going to end up having somebody else there that's meeting for commander's calls or going to the same place. Who knows? You might find a workout buddy, or you can find a ton of resources and recruiters that, they can be a wealth of knowledge as far as like recommendations and things that can help you get on track for your weight loss journey to make you eligible. But yeah, it's a good opportunity. So, all right, I think this brings to the end of the show. We really appreciate our 5 guests. You guys have been amazing, tons of insight, and I cannot even begin to explain the amount of knowledge y'all bring. Incomprehensible. I can't keep up with it. We're sitting here, I'm worried about words that might be written in partial Latin. And you guys got degrees and like, yeah, this is easy stuff, shortened courses, 3 years long. So, Colonel Homestead, Major Catrine, Senior Ward, Master Sergeant Mendoza, and Master Sergeant Bender, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your Tuesday afternoon and joining us on the show, bringing your awesome faces, smiles, and all the knowledge that's in those big brains of yours. We really appreciate it, and I hope our guests, or our audience, has also appreciated it. I've learned a bunch today.
I learned a lot too.
It's been it's an awesome experience. Like, I just get to keep soaking up information as we sit and host this show. So thank you so much, everybody out there in the internet land. Every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, 2 o'clock, join us. So 2 weeks from today, we will be back. And until then, see y'all later.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of The Back and Forth, brought to you by Headquarters Air Force Recruiting Service. It is a privilege for us to bring you all the information and insider insight into the exciting world of the United States Air Force. Remember, this show is all about you. We want to make sure we're providing you information and answers you need to make an informed decision about your future. So make sure to join us every other Tuesday with your questions, your feedback, and any ideas you have for future episodes. We are all ears. Don't forget to subscribe to our social media channels for even more exciting content. And also visit airforce.com for all the latest information on serving as a Total Force Airman. And with that, until next time, aim high.